Hi, everyone. My special guest today is another former student of mine, Jesus Arriola Resendiz. He took both my intermediate accounting 1 and 2 classes at UCLA in 2020. What I remember most about Jesus was that he always had a big smile on his face, even before I started lecturing. Now, that's someone who's really enthusiastic about learning accounting. Because Jesus had really positive energy all the time, and because he did well in my classes, I subsequently asked him to be my teaching assistant. I also nominated him to serve as a Becker CPA Review campus ambassador for UCLA. Fast forward to today, Jesus works at KPMG in their Orange County office as a second-year audit associate. Jesus, it's been a long time. Thanks so much for making time to do this video with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Professor Lou. I'm very happy to be a part of this.
I want to start off by asking you about your firm, KPMG. You currently work for their Orange County office in Irvine, California. Can you briefly talk about your company and why it's a great place to work?
Sure. So definitely the first thing that comes to mind when I think of KPMG is the people that I worked with. I know when I first started at KPMG, I had upon thousands of questions of just why do we do this procedure this way? Or why don't we do it this way? And so definitely working with all my fellow associates, seniors, managers, and even up to the managing director and partner, they were all so patient with me with all the questions I had because this was my first real job out of college. I didn't do any internships or things like that. And so this was the first real foray into the professional world. And so I had thousands of questions, but they were all so helpful and so patient with me, teaching me all sorts of different things as I've moved up in my career. And they've been, super grateful for them and could not have wished for any better mentors and seniors to work with. I'd also have to say that the nice thing, especially at a big four firm, is that there's all sorts of different clients you can work on, all sorts of different engagements and in different industries. And that's definitely, as a first year associate, you have the option to pick which kind of industry you'd like to work on. And with that, you can decide, if you like this industry, you can continue to work on clients in that industry. Or if you're maybe not a big fan of working in that industry, you can switch to a different one. That's definitely a lot easier as you first start out versus if you've been working at the firm for a few years, it's not as easy to kind of transfer between different industries. So definitely having all sorts of opportunities and a lot of different things you can work on is definitely a great thing that I've noticed when I've been working at KPMG.
You've been working at KPMG as an audit associate for almost 2 years now. Can you tell my students what a typical day is like for you? Also, could you explain how your responsibilities as a second-year audit associate differs from when you were a first-year audit associate?
Sure. So as a second year audit associate, typically you're kind of transitioning towards the promotion to senior to becoming a senior associate. And so with that, you'll start doing some senior level tasks. So with that, given audit is a client facing role, you'll be, at least I, on my engagements, typically talk with the client a lot, whether that be through emails for different questions they may have, or when we're having a status update and an external status update talking with the client about how the audit's going and any questions about that. Typically, I'm in charge of doing that and conversing with the client, and then kind of the first line basically between the client and the manager and the partner. So definitely a lot of external communication with the client as well as internal, whether that be internal status updates, just to kind of game plan on how the audit works, how it needs to work. Additionally, as a second year associate, I'll be in charge of potentially researching accounting topics, whether that be something that the client brings up and they're not sure how to treat the transaction, or something that the manager or the partner may have a question on. Typically, we'll do some research on it and then kind of present to them my findings before either we connect with the client again, or if we need to perform further research and consult with our research team. With that, as a second year associate, we also will have, say if we have an intern on the engagement or a first year staff on it, typically we'll be in charge of that, providing supervision to the intern or the staff on the lower complex business process, being a resource for them just in case they have any questions as they're performing their work. Additionally, of course, I'll also be working on all sorts of different work papers for the business process that I'm assigned on. But that typically, as you move on up, and if you have continuity on an engagement, you'll typically be assigned then the higher, more complex business process. And additionally, as you move on up, especially from the second year staff and eventually up to senior and even manager, you'll be more focused on admin tasks as well, whether that relates to making sure the engagement is on track to be completed and is also within the budget. So if an item, say, normally should take 3 to 4 hours, then if it doesn't, then your kind of task is to find out why and how to kind of fix that for next year or for a future task. Just making sure there's constant communication to ensure that the engagement is flowing smoothly. Versus as a first year staff, typically you'll be kind of given the more or less complex business processes areas. Hopefully they shouldn't never drop you on goodwill as you first start, otherwise it'd be a cruel engagement team. But yeah, typically you'll be given less complex areas with some supervision, whether that be a higher level associate or a senior, will be given someone to help you work with as you complete your tasks. And then typically, again, you won't have to really worry about how the engagement is doing. It's more so focused on your task and kind of growing in that task and making sure you complete it at least on time. So and definitely you may have some sort of contact with the client, maybe an occasional email, but typically you wouldn't really have to end up having a lot of external client facing communication. It'd be you bring your questions to, say, the second year staff or the senior, and then they would talk to the client about that. And then based on those answers can kind of go from there.